Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fumblerooski podcast. I am your wonderful host today, Justin Tucker, along with my main man, CJ Medeiros. And today we have a very special guest. Brian, please introduce yourself.
How are you doing, boys? It's been a little bit, but I'm glad to see you again. For any of you guys who don't know me, I am Brian Costa. I am the host of the Down to the Wire radio show / podcast, and pretty good friend of Adam. I mean, I've been on this show a good number of times, and I had Adam on my show yesterday, so I'm glad to be back with you, boys.
Great. How's everybody's day been? How's everybody's day been?
It's summertime, man. I can't
Yeah.
complain. We're just relaxing, but I've gone back to work and stuff, so that's great too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I know for myself, I've been pretty good as well. I just kind of like chilled out for most of the day. It was kind of a crappy day outside, so kind of just like laid low.
I kind of wish it was a crappy day. It's hot down here. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
it's,
I'm like an hour and a half away from Tucker. I can tell you that humid. It's humid
yeah.
over here.
Dude, it was a high. It was like a high of like 54 degrees here today. It was
Oh, it
like
must be
Ah,
nice.
it was
it
it was
must be.
it was that and rainy. It was like putrid outside.
Well,
I wish I could have that because at nights it gets to 60, and that's on a
Oh,
good day.
yeah.
that's nice though. Like you can wear shorts outside. Like you don't need to like worry about that. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I know around here it's gonna get up to like 96 on Saturday. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. So, but enough about that, boys and girls. Today we have a wonderful show to you. Today we will be talking about James Bradbury and the new team he signed for and whether or not he can make them a contender. We also have the smackdown between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher in the conversation between those two. And we have a very special guest segment where Brian will talk about a segment and we will all interact with each other. But first, the main topic for today, Bradbury. Today he signed. Yesterday he signed with the Eagles for a 1-year deal worth $11 million, and I think that's a good signing. But CJ, what do you think about the signing for the Eagles?
This is kind of a weird signing for me, and let me tell you why. I personally, let me just say, I hate these veteran signings when a guy like Bradbury, who's a top 10 corner, goes for like a 1-year prove it deal. These signings have always driven me up the wall, and that isn't stopping today. But if you're Philly, you should be happy. You're going to have a great 1-2 punch in your backfield. And if Bradbury proves himself to be just as good as he ever was, then, you could sign him and maybe replace Slay, who is getting up there in age. But when I look at this Bradbury signing, I feel like Philly has had a sneaky good offseason. I mean, everyone likes to rave about the Broncos and the Chargers and the Raiders. Everyone in the AFC West had a great year. AFC is getting really good, but Philly might be like a dark horse for the playoffs. Now, before you jump on me, I would like to point out the NFC has gotten really weak. It's like a 2-horse race between Tampa and LA and maybe Green Bay if Rodgers can throw and catch the ball. But I mean, look at what Philly did. They got their new pass rusher or another pass rusher in Hassan Reddick. They snagged Zach Pascal on like a cheap deal. They got Kaiser White, sneaky underrated on a 1-year deal. And their draft, in my eyes, was pretty good. You got Jordan Davis. You got the big man. That's nice. You got Nakobe Dean, who you're playing the long game with, but he should, when he comes around, he's going to be great. Oh, yeah. And you just got A.J. Brown. I mean, maybe not like the best offseason, but let me tell you something. They're looking very, very good. And like I said, I can't rule them out as a dark horse in the NFC East. I just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to agree there. I mean, obviously the Cowboys, are right now I would say are the favorites in that division just because of Dak Prescott and the guy that he is. But for the most part, the NFC East for basically my entire life has been a very winnable division. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just kind of the way it is out there. When it comes to the Eagles, I really like what they're doing with this team right now because they're just completely loading up this team, on both offense and defense. I know, CJ, you mentioned the acquisition of AJ Brown. Obviously, now they get Bradbury in the mix. They're putting themselves in the best possible position and are basically putting all their chips on the table and saying, "Hey, if we don't do anything this season, it falls on one man's shoulders, and that's Jalen Hurts." That they are putting this all on Jalen Hurts right now. They have given him an immense amount of talent, and they're saying, "All right, man, we're giving you the keys to the offense this year. We're giving you every single thing you could want. Go and get it."
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a now prove it year for Jalen Hurts. I think it's a matter of we finally gave him the necessary weapons around him. We got him Jalen Reagor, who might be a wide receiver 3 now that they have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. So that is a good to great wide receiver trio if everything pans out. They have Miles Sanders in the running game, and they have a decent O-line. It's now or never for Jalen Hurts. If he can prove it, then you can see that he can be a franchise player. And they have a quality defense.
That's a big if.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too. I'm when I had one of your guys' typical hosts, Adam, right on my show, I made a comparison between two teams, and it was between the Eagles and the Dolphins in terms of where they're going to be next year. And you look at what both teams have done, and obviously the Eagles just went and got Bradbury on defense, and then the Dolphins they got Bradbury on defense, and then they got AJ Brown in the passing game, and they're really bolstering their offense. Now they go out and then you compare this to the Dolphins, who went out and got Tyreek Hill and were really, buffering up their offense there. They're basically, both going after these two young quarterbacks who've had their fair share of struggles in the National Football League, maybe one more than the other, and are basically saying, all right, we have given you every single possible option to succeed. If you can't do it with all of this talent, then you just can't cut it in the NFL. So I appreciate that these guys are at least giving their quarterbacks the chance to thrive and are actually putting the right pieces in front of them. But at this point, like, if Jalen Hurts cannot get it done this year, same thing with Tua, then they're just not cut for the league. That's just going to be the case at this point. So we're going to really see what they're made of this year, and it's going to be a very very trying year for them.
I agree. Yeah. I think it is a trying year. But my thing is, I think it's more so for Jalen than it is for Tua, because I think it'd be more reasonable as to why the Dolphins wouldn't make the playoffs as to the Eagles, because the Dolphins play in a way tougher conference and division than the
Justin, you make a good point with that as to why they wouldn't be able to, with Tua's success. And I'm not saying that, for Tua, it has to be the playoffs, but you have to see some increased level of performance on the field. If Tua goes out there balls and just other parts of the Dolphins team just isn't able to propel them into the playoffs, then you can make it a case and just say, all right, we bolstered their offense. We have Jalen Waddle, we have Tyreek Hill, and now Tua's balling. All right, let's go shore up some things on the defensive end. Let's get a better run game going, and then take that into the next season and. Because you've seen that, Tua now has that ability to perform. With Jalen Hurts, though, because the NFC East and the NFC just in general is as weak as it is now or never. And it is playoffs or bust for him at this point. Because like you guys said, the dynamic when we were younger used to be that the NFC was the team, with all like the true contenders. Obviously, the AFC, you would always have the Patriots, the Colts, and just other teams like that would always be in the mix. But for the most part, it was always the NFC was so very heavy. That is completely flipped, and it is very AFC heavy now in the NFL. So with the NFC being as wide open as it is, and with the extra wild card spot, and with everything, lining up for more teams to be able to make the playoffs, the Eagles now need to make the playoffs this year.
I agree, and I think they should be contenders to win the NFC East, because I can't remember a time where back-to-back winners have been like the Cowboys or the Eagles or whatever. It's just not a thing. So I believe the Cowboys might have to take a step back because they lost their pass rusher and Randy Gregory, and they just traded away their wide receiver, Amari Cooper, who had a good dynamic with Dak Prescott. So if this is a now or never time, it'd be now for Jalen Hurts to prove that he can win them some games and actually win the division for him. Because I think it's the easiest time for him to do it is right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, I lean more to what Brian says than anything else. And here's why. I mean, if you think about it, the NFC is easier. But if you're Tua or Jalen Hurts, look at the offenses that you've been surrounded with. You have no excuse not to suck this year. You really don't. And even if Miami, I know it's harder for them, but this is where the men from the boys are separated. And it's like, I don't want to hear how much better the Bills are on paper. You have the two of the fastest receivers in the league at your disposal. You have a top 10 tight end, a decent line, and a serviceable committee backfield. If you're Tua, there's no reason to suck. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. And if you look at their numbers last year, they were borderline the same player. I mean, Tua had about 2,600 passing yards with 16 touchdowns, 10 picks. Hurts had like just over 3,000 with 16 touchdowns and 9 picks. Like, they're borderline, like their stats are basically coming out the same. And I definitely think for both of them, this is certainly a put up or shut up year. but I would honestly give Tua, like you guys said, like a little more leeway just because of the division. But
Well, here's the thing,
you know.
CJ. I mean, when I say leeway, I mean based on
Oh
overall. I mean based
like
on
if he
overall
throws for
performance of
like
the team.
4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and doesn't make the playoffs, then that's excusable. But if you're throwing for like 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 15 picks, I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it.
No,
Yeah.
Same
that's
thing
the
for
thing.
Hurts. And
For
when
Tua,
you,
it's a lot more
Mhm.
individually based, and then for
Yeah.
Hurts, individual stats are going to matter here. I mean, if he just kind of just manages to get through and they kind of fall into that last playoff spot, then they're probably going to look for another quarterback
Yeah.
anyways.
Mhm.
But if but if he's able to be more than serviceable, shows some real flashes and is able to propel them maybe to either to win that division or get like one of the higher wild card slots, then I think that they have a lot more confidence in them and they stay with him.
Yeah, I agree, but I would say that Hurts is under a little bit more pressure for
Yeah.
one reason. Philly is projected to have 2 first rounders next year. More than likely, one of them is going to be early. And some of these quarterbacks coming out next year, possibly guys like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, you literally have guys like that already breathing down Jalen's neck. It's now or never.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young looks like he could be a generational talent. So, I mean, he's still going to have a lot of things to prove at Alabama this year, but I think he has, a lot of potential. It's going to be a lot of it's going to be a real big test for Jalen. Obviously, I think that he has a ton of pressure, and he's going to really have to show that he has the ability to succeed this year. Is what I meant to say.
Yeah. It's now or never, and unfortunately, they do have to perform to some degree, whether individually or team successful wise. Any final comments? Or
in terms of final comments, with James Bradbury obviously going from the Giants to the Eagles, how do you think that dynamic is going to be? Obviously, it's when a division rival corner joins the enemy. There's always there's been some level of success there in the past. I know for myself. I think of Darrelle Revis. Obviously, he had that 1 year with the Bucks, but he got that 1 year. I think it was $20-something million from the Patriots. Came in, won a Super Bowl. What kind of a performance are you expecting to see from Bradbury this year?
Well, I believe he'll be to starter level to Pro Bowl level. I don't think he fell off that much from his All-Pro caliber season he had with the Giants. I think he'll be able to perform. I think he'll be a nice tandem with Darius Slay, and they'll be a nice 1-2 punch at the bare minimum. I'm not sure how Darius Slay will perform individually, but I think James Bradbury will be a serviceable number 2 cornerback next to Darius Slay.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that he's like borderline number 1. You essentially have 2 number 1s back there, and if Slay can like stave off Father Time for 1 more year, then that's going to be really, really good for Philly, and maybe Bradbury could be your 1 year after next.
All right. Congratulations to James Bradbury and the contract he just signed. This has been the fumblerooski podcast. Coming up, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher going at it.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the fumblerooski podcast. I am your host, Justin Tucker, along with my main man, CJ Medeiros, and our good friend, Brian. Our next segment, we will be talking about Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. According to Nick Saban, Texas A&M has been recently buying out their players due to NIL deals. And earlier this morning, Jimbo Fisher had a lot of things to say about our old friend Nick Saban, calling him the czar of football, and look how we represented him. So, Brian, how do you feel about this whole conversation?
I've kind of been, trying to, put together the pieces on it. I've been trying to figure out things as we go along. It's been very interesting so far. I mean, For Jimbo Fisher just not to hold any hold any punches with this, I love that. I mean, that's just awesome on my end. But this is what NIL opens the door to, and I'm just surprised that a guy like Nick Saban, who Jimbo Fisher calls him the czar of football, isn't able to understand a new way to market guys. I mean, obviously you're not giving a guy a contract and saying, hey, we're going to pay you and do all this, but NIL is, technically now legal by NCAA standards. I know there are some jurisdictions now coming into play for it, and we're going to have to see how that affects some things. But for college football going forward, NIL looks like it's going to be part of the picture. So if Jimbo Fisher is able to go to guys and say, hey, we have these NIL possibilities for you, come here and we'll hook you up. I don't know how Nick Saban, who is at the football capital of America in Alabama, I don't know how he isn't able to say, hey, you want to be a superstar? Come here, come to Alabama. We will get you every single NIL deal that you have ever dreamed of. I don't know how he doesn't do that. I just don't understand it.
CJ?
Yeah. For the record, Nick Saban is on record saying, quote, I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M brought every player on their team. They made a deal for the name, image, and likeness, and we didn't buy one player, all right? But I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. It's tough. Now, sounds to me like Saban's kind of taking the Belichick approach, where it's like we want good players, but this is college. We don't want to have to pay for them. But look, like Brian said, this is Alabama. It's the football capital of the world, or at least the U.S. And
it's of the world.
I know. Yeah. Hey, I try to be politically correct.
If we're talking about football, then maybe not. But
not in the U.S. We don't talk about that.
No.
No. But think about it. It is kind of a Belichickian thing to say, and he and Belichick are friends. But it's like, look, you can go and say, hey, you want to be a superstar? Play for Alabama. And, playing for Alabama is basically like its own reward. That's basically, and if you ball out in their system, that's like a guarantee at some point you're going to get drafted. Yeah. But then here comes Texas A&M, where they're like, hey, we're not as good as Bama, but we'll pay you or we'll hook you up with an endorsement. And look, a lot of these kids coming out of college, some of them, sports are like all you have, and if you're thinking straight, you're probably going to take the money. I mean, if you're not especially well off, there's no reason why you shouldn't take the money, and that's just the fact of the matter. I mean, I'm not trying to be disparaging. I'm just saying, like, a lot of these guys, they football's like an escape, and I would definitely say you take the money. And this is a new wave for college football, NIL. Now it's legal. That's what it means. And I mean, honestly, I'm kind of more of the Jimbo Fisher school of thought. This is how it's trending. You might not like it. This is how it is. If you want, it's basically going to be a battle of endorsements, and Alabama's got to keep up, or maybe the life event, or I mean, maybe like the way of the NCAA might just pass them by, because it looks like now it's like the NFL where you're getting to bidding wars for recruits. Yeah. And Alabama, you got to shape up, man. I totally agree with Jimbo Fisher. This is the way it's done now.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this team, looking at Alabama, and I can understand the idea of, all right, playing for Alabama is its own glory. You get the chance to get drafted. You have the chance to, annually compete for a national championship. I get that. And it's a similar approach to, the New England Patriots, to where it's like, hey, it's not always going to be the most favorable conditions here, but you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. How bad do you want it? In Alabama, though, obviously the weather's a lot nicer. It's not going to be as brutally cold during your football season, so you have that as an advantage. And the other thing, too, is most guys in the NFL, at least the guys that, are these top-of-the-line candidates, they already have sponsorship deals lined up, and it's completely legal. There is no second thought about it. And obviously, then they also have their contracts, which help them out as well. With college football, I mean, the name, image, and likeness is able to help you on any area possible. So I don't know why Nick Saban isn't able to say, hey, the Alabama brand itself carries a huge reputation. I don't know why he can't just simply say, hey, let's profit off the Alabama brand and let you be an extension of our program, and eventually filter in more and more recruits.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I understand the Texas A&M approach to it, and I believe I understand the Alabama way of it. My thing is, I think Bryce Young at least has an NIL deal. Like,
Yeah.
if he doesn't,
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
like that. He has to have one. And if you're Nick
Oh,
Saban,
yeah.
he better have one.
Oh,
He
yeah.
got you. He helped win you a natty. You better give him one, or helps you put you in position his second year as a Heisman. You better get him one. So that's my first thought. If his approach is right off the bat, you shouldn't get them, and as you work towards it, yes, you should eventually get those NIL deals. And his preposition is they're using the NIL deals and recruiting them just off the bat. So Texas A&M is like approaching players with like, as soon as you guys get here, we're paying you. I think that I understand that. But if it's anything else, I'm against Nick Saban on this. If you're opposed to paying your NCAA players that should be getting paid now because they're now fully able to get NIL deals, then unfortunately, yeah, you do have to pay them. As sad as that may be, they do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, it's all good.
They didn't earn it. They actually did come to your school. They are D1 players, and they do help the school earn money. So they're able and fortunate enough to get NIL deals to sponsor themselves. They should be able to get it. I don't think I should hold that against them. If you're
No,
saying,
yeah, you shouldn't hold anything against them. I mean, they've earned their right to play it, and that's why I think NIL is so special, is such a unique opportunity because unlike just being handed a contract where it's like, hey, like this is the amount of money you're gonna make. It's like you can make as much money as you possibly could make because like if you get a really good sponsorship deal and you get a number of them and you're just about that business and you're selling merchandise, then go for it. I mean, I see no issue with that. I mean, I would say just 100% go for it.
I really wish they came up with the NIL deal sooner, because if they came up with it like 20 or 30 years sooner, Reggie Bush would still have his Heisman Trophy. And the fact that he doesn't have it really angers me, and they won't give it back to him.
Dude, I'm exactly the same way. And let's be honest. We all know, like I said, what NIL means. Now it's legal. But and I think that's a fitting thing because you are a moron if you don't think this was going on before. It always was. But Alabama's upset that now teams can be open about it. And that's not something that they usually did, I don't think. If Saban's sourness toward it is any indication. But like I said, this is a new wave. You're gonna have to pay you especially if you get like a 5-star recruit, you're gonna have to pay them. That's just how it's shaken out.
I don't think it's paying them. It's more so of when
or securing them a sponsorship or something.
Yeah.
Well, money's going to them basically, and like I said, and they're going to need that guarantee. Otherwise, Alabama, you might not get every 5-star recruit in the nation now. You might not, because if you're not willing to open up, your purse for it, well, they'll gladly go to Texas A&M.
And watch. Now I actually do want to see the October 8th game against them, Texas A&M versus Alabama, because I want to see who's right in the situation.
That thing could get a little bit chippy.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, Nick Saban might blow him out intentionally. He might just be passing when it's like 40-0 just to prove a point.
Absolutely.
So I really hope that's a close game, and I hope it gets very chippy, but in a good, well-mannered sense. So hopefully everything turns out okay. I know Jimbo won't talk to Nick Saban ever again because of these comments.
No.
He's gone on and said that on the record. Nick Saban tried to call him, but he's not going to talk to him anymore.
No.
Oh, there's bad blood between them. And hey, it's SEC football. Play ball.
I mean, listen, Deion Sanders opened the door, and now it's just wide open for everyone to come in and continue it. I mean, I see, I'm looking down at the Chiron. I see Prime Time there. I mean, Coach Prime opened the door for this, and now we are seeing it in full scale. It is far beyond like these little schools now, and some schools just taking small advantage of it. It is a full-on issue now. I mean, I'm going to expect some more regulations to come down from the NCAA. I'm expecting them to be stupid and them to mess this thing up. So it's usually the way that they end up going with this thing. So hopefully things end up all right, but I think we know which way this is probably going to end up going.
Yeah. I would not be shocked if the NCAA just yanked this opportunity off the table altogether.
I don't see them yanking it off the table, but I think that they will probably put in some jurisdictions as to how you can use NIL and negotiating tactics. So maybe they'll institute a window in which you can present NIL opportunities. Maybe the school can't talk about NIL, but the actual companies themselves have to reach out, or you do it where like once you're officially affiliated with the roster, once you're on campus, and once you have once maybe the academic year has started, or the athletic season has technically started, maybe then you're finally eligible to be approached by these companies. So I think that's probably something we'll see come down the pipe, but I'm not necessarily sure how that's going to all work itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I know everyone likes to call the NFL the no fun league, but if the NCAA changes these NIL rules, we might have a new contender.
Yeah. Man, just looking at the NIL deals and looking at all the players that could have had them in the past that never was able to because it was illegal, like Tim Tebow. Imagine if Tim Tebow had.
Oh, Tim Tebow would be.
He would have made a fortune.
Oh,
I mean,
Reggie
you
Bush.
just see. Just look down in the comment. Just look down in like the title section. I mean, you see primetime. How much money would Deion Sanders have made in college? He would have made a fortune.
Now, this is somebody else, and I know he's I know we all know him for being a draft bust, but can you imagine how much money Johnny Manziel would have made? He would have made an obscene amount of money if NIL deals were legal in 2013 and 14.
Now, I don't think he would do any good with that money, but
of course not. But still, he would have made an obscene amount. And that's what matters, kids.
No, yeah, he would have pissed it all away. He would have made.
Absolutely. Probably would have gambled it all in Vegas. Under what was his under that pseudonym and the fake mustache? I remember that.
Oh man! Any last comments, boys, before we move on?
Nah, nope. I think we're chilling.
Coming up next, we have the very special segment we call the guest segment, where Brian will introduce our next topic. Yep, this has been the fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back to the show. I am Justin Tucker. CJ Medeiros is my main man, and we have our special guest, Brian. Now, Brian, we have asked you to introduce a segment for us to talk about, and please take it away.
Yeah, boys. So obviously, I had a topic coming into this show. We were actually pretty eager to talk about it, but then the fumblerooski overlord Adam Wright stepped in and deemed it not worthy.
Name drop.
So we're not going to be able to
tonight.
Yeah, so we were going to talk about the Boston Celtics and their game against the Miami Heat, but with the story not being evergreen for the time you guys will be viewing this show, by the time a lot of you guys watch it, the Celtics game will already be over. Hopefully, it will be a Celtics victory, but we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what ends up happening there. Hopefully, knock on wood, they get it done against the Miami Heat. But I was able to, in my last minute desperation of just being like, oh, what the hell do I talk about now? I went to, one of my favorite podcasts that I watch on the side, apart from your guys's and my own. I went to the Pat McAfee show, and one of the topics that he was talking about today is that greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, is set to release a Netflix, not a Netflix comedy special, but a Netflix roast in 2023. He's going to be the subject of this roast. And it's going to become it's basically going to be part of a series called The Greatest Roast of All Time, or The GROAT. And it's going to have, and it's basically just going to have a bunch of people, on the set with them. And he's going to be a part of, just having a bunch of comedians go at him. So one of the reports from Variety ends up saying the Netflix's vice president, Robbie Praw, basically states, "We can't wait to burn 3-time Super Bowl losing quarterback Tom Brady, who only went back to the NFL in order to delay this roast," said Praw. of this. In all seriousness, it's a huge thrill to work with the greatest football player of all time on this project. No one's better than taking hits and still coming out of it and still coming out on top. So we know the rest will be a breeze for Brady. So that's what Netflix's VP said about this. Obviously, Tom Brady has been one of the most criticized athletes, throughout professional sports. He's a 7-time Super Bowl champion at this point, also 3-time Super Bowl losing quarterback. So a lot of different things on that end. He has the Deflategate scandal. So many different things have gone on throughout his career. So many great things and so much speculation as well. So my topic obviously is going to revolve around this. And I ask you guys, what do you guys think about this?
You forgot Tuck Rule recipient. Honestly, I'm intrigued by it. I actually do want to see this now that Tom Brady's now part of a roast. I want to see how they'll go at it. There's a lot of things to talk about Tom Brady, so it'll be interesting to see how these world-class comedians come after him. So,
yeah, I mean,
okay and not okay.
Yeah, and there's a chance a lot of these guys, there can be a lot of comedians too. I mean, obviously this is on Netflix, so after listening to the Pat McAfee show, there, certain people that have deals with Netflix include guys like Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr have deals with Netflix. I think Tom Segura might have a deal with Netflix. There are a bunch of guys that have Netflix deals and could potentially be a part of this. CJ, what are your thoughts?
I actually have my thoughts are some questions. Actually, is it just going to be Brady that they're roasting?
So I think, so what I think they're doing is, I don't know if this is going to be a series, but
no, because I was just going to say it should be. I mean, it should be a series because if you're roasting Brady, there's so many people you go after, like maybe Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. If you want to cross sports, maybe LeBron or Durant or someone like that. That would just be. I want to see like a series where like all your favorite sports icons, maybe past and present, you could bring up older guys like a Michael Jordan or a Dan Marino, get absolutely flamed. I would love that.
Yeah, so from what I'm seeing right now, it does look like it is going to be part of the series because they do say specials with an S. So they do look like they are going to be bringing on multiple athletes as this thing goes on. But it looks like Tom Brady will be the first one. At least it appears that he'd be the first guy to be a part of this. This won't be filmed, however, until 2023. So, it'll be after the conclusion of next year's football season. I will be in my senior year of college, about to graduate. So that's pretty surreal. By the time when this thing finally airs, it's going to be kind of crazy. So I don't know. It seems like it could be very interesting for you guys. Who is the one guy that you want them to bring out to roast Brady?
Oh,
Charles Woodson.
Oh yeah, because of the Tuck Rule.
I mean, but they just did that entire 30 for 30 special on it.
True.
Is that not enough?
Apparently not enough for Tucker.
Nah.
Eli Manning.
Would be.
We need a segment on fumblerooski called the Tuck Rule, starring Justin Tucker, but that's neither here nor there. But you know who I want to see roast Brady? Belichick.
I mean, of course.
Can you imagine Belichick in his usual Bill Belichick voice?
I'm responsible for all this greatness.
It was like, I drafted you or something like that, or like your long hair was stupid and I had to put up with it. It's like, or something like that. But I would imagine Bill would have some great insights. And, Bill, I've heard, has got a really good sense of humor. So that would be perfect.
The only thing though is, most, if you've ever seen like a Comedy Central roast, most of these guys, like, they're also getting roasted throughout the majority of the show. So like,
I know, and that there would be a great back and forth.
Oh yeah, no, they go up and they say their bit. So, Bill Belichick might be able to like dish it out. I mean, he's apparently done it to athletes, his entire career. I saw a little thing with Julian Edelman where Edelman was talking about how Belichick would like just break down like every single part of like a bad play and would just like nitpick you to death and would just say like, you guys suck. Like, Bill Belichick obviously can dole it out, but can he take it? Can he basically take that criticism from other people?
I don't know. Well, I feel
I
like
think if it's Brady,
it's all
I think
supposed
that's
to
the
be
only one who can get
lighthearted. That's the thing. It's
I
like it's
mean,
supposed to be like lighthearted. So, and I don't think anyone's going to be like vicious, like coming after him. So, I feel like if it
have you
were like
seen
an
some of these
actual,
Comedy Central roasts? Have you seen some of these Comedy
He's
Central
vicious.
roasts?
I know,
I
but no
get
one
that it's
does
all
it. But it's not
playful.
out of malice, is my point. And as long as he
No.
keeps in mind that it's not out of malice, it should be fine. But if it's like if they're like going at each other's throats, like all vicious, like I would imagine that Bill wouldn't want to do that. But everyone's there just to have a good time. It can get a little chippy, but that's what it is. I feel like Bill definitely could. And another one I would like to see roast Edelman. I know Edelman would have some great stories.
Oh, I mean, of course he
Yeah.
would.
Also, Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Welker, maybe. I don't know
Oh,
why, but as a Pats fan, I feel like Slater might have some funny insights too.
Slater might, yeah.
Because he's been there for so long.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I had Matthew Slater come speak at my school. He's got some really great takes on Brady. I mean, people were asking about like what's he like, and he just goes like, man, he's just like such a different guy. And he was very insightful about him. Like, made a couple people laugh with some things that he said. But if you gave him like an open mic and just the forum to speak his mind, I think he'd be pretty funny with that.
Yeah.
If I had to go with a dark horse candidate for who I think could be really funny, it would be Matt Castle. And I know that name wouldn't get a lot of media attention, and obviously guys like Rob Gronkowski or Julian Edelman would gather more. But Matt Castle was Brady's backup the year he went down with his ACL injury, and was also in that backup role for a couple years prior. He had to be in the same room as Tom Brady, and he took his job for a year and was pretty successful with it. Now, obviously, Matt Castle's career was very different than Tom Brady's. He went to KC and really kind of just fell apart, after a couple years. But I think he'd be a pretty interesting guy to get some insight on.
Yeah, who I also think would be great? Drew Bledsoe.
Yes.
All that I don't know. There's definitely got to be some pent up that should have been me feelings there, and that would be awesome to hear Bledsoe go at him.
I mean, did you watch that Did you watch the Tom Brady documentary, like with Bledsoe in it? Like,
yeah,
that's filled throughout the thing where he just goes, yeah, it was like he talks about like the injury and like not being able and like losing the quarterback job, and it's actually like pretty depressing. Like he goes, yeah, my life kind of like got turned upside down, and everything about football with me just got completely crushed. Like it's kind of gut wrenching. So maybe if he's able to channel that anger, maybe it would be something interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many good options to go for, but of course they're going to have their comedians, and hopefully,
I think Vrabel would be a good guy. That was someone who was mentioned. I think he'd be good.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a good one because he actually played tight end for the Patriots as well as linebacker.
Well,
we had to
I have to say he was the two-way. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Anything else about this special?
Just the fact that I'm excited to see it. I would love to see it come out, so I'm excited for it.
I just want to say one thing. I hope it's not comedians. I mean, I know it's gonna be some comedians, but I hope it's like majority like former athletes, people that played alongside him or against him. That's where the money is.
I wouldn't mind if it's a good mix. I think I wouldn't mind if you get also a good mix of Boston sports icons too. I mean, you'll now have to throw in, I guess, like just a token Tampa person just to like, just to say we're representing Tampa, but maybe you get Mark Wahlberg out there. Maybe you get, I said Bill Burr for a comedian standpoint. I think he'd be really good in a roast. I've never really seen him in a roast atmosphere, like at least not the Comedy Central one. So to get him in that, I think would be really good. So yeah, I would say go for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, or Bill Burr. Those comedians.
I think they'd kill it.
Oh yeah, especially Chappelle.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening. Be sure to tune in to us live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fan Sports Only Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Be sure to follow our Instagram at fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage of the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.